My name is Yana Valachovic, and I work with the University of California in partnership with Del Norte and Humboldt counties. And my title is Forest Advisor, essentially for those two counties. I often call it the North Coast. I'm a forester as well as a technical resource to help landowners and communities address challenges that they may face in kind of a variety of natural resource issues. What I'm hoping to do is help landowners as well as community members that are standing up a variety of different fuels management and fuels treatment projects understand some of the pitfalls and challenges that they may face and get them into the planning phase as early as possible and try and help navigate through some of those challenges. California is a very regulated state, and so in many respects you have to work backwards from the permit that you may be intending to be the vehicle for your project and then design your project out of the permit, as opposed to start with a big dream and then try and figure out how that might fit in through the permitting scheme, because it often doesn't. Yes, so in California, there's a broad recognition that we have some significant wildfire-related challenges, and trying to accelerate the pace and scale, the qualified workforce, the private sector solutions, as well as where the public sector can facilitate more rapid movement in that arena, has been a conversation for several years in California, and that has resulted in the creation of what's called the Wildfire Forest Resilience Task Force, which is an interagency organization chaired by both the Forest Service and CAL FIRE, and then led by many other organizations throughout the state and individuals. And that group, through a variety of different work groups and a science panel, has been trying to figure out, well, where can we be effective? How do we accelerate that pace and scale component? And one of the interesting pieces in their strategy is really to look at supercharging regions, not just doing a shotgun approach of funding where you distribute a little bit here and everywhere, but it doesn't actually make a threshold change in difference. So for those of us that are in the North Coast, which is kind of where my geographic assignment is, what is coming from the Wildfire Forest Resilience Task Force, besides a bunch of different policy recommendations and funding distributions, is a concept called using block grants to be able to distribute funds to available and interested community members. The partner that we are likely to work with in the North Coast is something called the North Coast Resource Partnership, which covers about 7 counties and works from Sonoma all the way up to Del Norte and then over across the top of the state into Modoc County. And they sort of naturally fit the alignment with what the task force is thinking. So that's a non-traditional partner for many of us. When I wear my landowner hat, I think about the technical assistance as well as the financial assistance that I might get out of our traditional organizations such as CAL FIRE through the CFIP program, the California Forest Improvement Program, or through our federal partners such as the Natural Resources Conservation Service through the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, or EQIP. This is sort of opening the door to another arena of funding and some potential, I think, to design larger projects and really link multiple ownership types or individuals together and make some significant improvement at a more landscape scale. Yeah, there's a lot to think about in this space, and for those that are just starting and looking at their landscape and going, wow, there's a lot of dead material, or my forest is really thick. How would I thin it out? As much as I don't want to limit people's imagination, I do think there's value in starting small and biting off what you can actually chew and commensurately figuring out how to access funds and crews that are available to assist you. Once the project starts getting bigger and more complex, there are a number of challenges that people run into. And one of those is not recognizing that permitting is maybe 30% of the total project budget. And so I see a lot of community groups thinking about permitting in the after they've applied space, and then realizing that they're under budget and they don't have the resources available to actually permit what their dreams are. So recognizing that Once you start to gel with an idea, it's really worth bringing in a registered professional forester, also known as an RPF, to help think about what the permitting pathway is if you're on state land or using state funds on private land. So that's really a critical piece in this. If we're using federal funds, then we need to do some analysis under NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act. And so that just adds a different layer of complexity to a project. So when projects span different ownership types, like federal or private, or involve different funding sources, both federal and state, then the complexity goes up and the permitting commensurately goes up. I'm a co-author on a publication that helps both community groups and landowners think about permitting forest fuel reduction projects on private lands. And this is a free downloadable publication that identifies a number of the challenges, a number of the opportunities, and some of the permitting pathways to help facilitate projects. And one of the key resources that we put together is a decision tree to help people think about what would be the vehicle that would be the permitting vehicle to facilitate the project. And trying to find the simplest one possible that works for your scale of project is really the kind of critical piece. Thinking about permitting from the very beginning is really critical to project success. Well, our organization, the University of California Cooperative Extension, really is an available technical resource to landowners and community groups, and we're happy to, come in early and help individuals work through their specific project and talk through some of the options and think through, what the challenges may be and how to overcome those. So, we're an available partner in that space and look forward to really helping people, realize their goals and really increase the resiliency and adaptation of their forests to a future climate and future wildfire exposure. I'll just say from my own experience, I have my own property, small, but I've run both CFIP, the CAL FIRE program, and EQIP, the Natural Resources Conservation Service program, projects on my property. And I found each program to be very approachable, very usable. The partnership with those organizations has been one that's been really strong and has helped me both put in fuel breaks as well as do some oak woodland restoration and overall, improve the stands. The challenge, of course, is the permitting piece. If you are commercializing some of the byproduct of your work, as well as the cash flow that occurs with one of these projects. So, that's a good question to ask your potential organization that you might be working with. Like, how long do you anticipate this project going? What would it take for me to receive a payment? What's the level of completion I need along the way? Just to make sure that you can handle the cash flows as you go into the project. Because if you're hiring contractors to do the work, they're going to want to have a clear expectation of when they're going to be funded. So if there's a delay in funding or payment to you all, then you may be delaying paying to the contractor. So being aware of that financial flow is a critical component to this. That's in part why I say start small, so you have a sense of what you can anticipate, who your contract manager is, and how they're going to review and approve your invoices and your projects, and just understand going in eyes wide open what to expect. So then your next project, as you scale up, you'll be able to anticipate those challenges and think about kind of how you scale to the next level.